Shanthitown.
Thanks for coming around to Shanthitown, good friends.
It's nice to be here.
Pleasure as always to be in your company.
Likewise. So the second episode is here and lots of technical difficulties, but we start well and strong.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Yes. So the friends here, we have our good friend Pablo.
Hello.
And we have our good friend Kentaro.
Hello.
Hi. So everybody has their story. We'll get to it slowly. slowly.
Watered down version, maybe.
We have watered down version, heavily censored and packaged for consumption. So, the topics are always open. I like to go where the conversation takes us.
Okay.
Yes, and wherever you feel is good. Anybody have anything to share first?
I haven't really checked it in detail, but it seems like there was a huge earthquake in Turkey.
There was an earthquake, yes.
Turkey and Syria.
In Syria. Yeah, so I guess quite a lot of people died there, right?
Yes.
And this morning, personally, I was teaching yoga class, and at the end of the yoga class, we have the corpse pose, right?
Corpse pose, yes. Shavasana.
Yeah, Shavasana.
Mm-hmm.
And the other day, I took someone else's class, and she was saying a Shavasana, instead of as a corpse pose, she was saying this is a relaxing pose.
Yeah.
So, but I learned this is a corpse pose, which is quite relaxing.
Yeah.
So these days we try to avoid to see death as it is.
Yeah.
And like whenever you hear those quite heartbreaking disaster news, so like how do we want to have our heart on those news?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been kind of meditating on it.
Yes. Yeah, it's true, actually, especially in the modern yoga. They like to take the original meaning and make it very palatable for the highly sensitive modern folk. This is, for me, who's like a very hardcore traditionalist, I find it always irking, all the time. I was actually talking about this with Ayumi today, our friend, and I remember teaching yoga in Canada. I love Canada, my country. I always found, however, there's so many obstacles to the people's mentality. They don't want to do poses which are actually easy because they have a perception that they're going to get injured. They don't want to hear certain language like corpse position because death cannot be.
Yeah.
How can we talk about death? Nobody dies. We just fade away into relaxation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit strange, the modern perception of death and being a negative. It's got like a negative connotations, but I'm sure for some it's a merciful release. But I think that in this modern society we have to really watch ourselves sometimes. We speaking plainly is not always received well. So I guess it's looking at it in the yoga from the yoga perspective. Corpse pose is nothing. We understand that's part of life. If that makes sense to me. But of course, talking about death in most Western societies is a bit of a taboo, depending on the situation. Right. But the watering down of language in general now is a modern phenomenon.
Yeah, I mean, traditional Western society, I don't think they were afraid of death. They think, oh, I'm going to heaven.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, the Victorians certainly had as far as I understand it and studied it, I'm old, but I'm not from the Victorian era.
Certainly not.
But there was a certain period of mourning which was observed for each different member of the household who happened to pass away. And of course, there was a big fashion of when photography was in its infancy. It was quite common to dress up the deceased and have a photo taken either with a infant death or at any period in their life.
Grandma.
And you hung it on the wall and everyone was like, "Who's that old corpse?" And that was sister. She passed away from some kind of ailment last year.
Yeah, for sure.
We recorded it for posterity.
Even in Japanese culture, I know they'll bring the corpse into the house.
Yeah.
They'll put it in the room just like he or she was there every day.
Yeah.
They'll spend time with it for up to 48 hours or something like this, 2-3 days.
I remember I was sleeping right next to my grandma holding her cold hand because I missed her too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a regular practice here.
Wow, that's really weird. It's like, actually, it was fairly common, certainly I know in Ireland, that the last journey of the deceased is usually back to home. Then there's a little party, and then they go from the home where everyone literally stands around the coffin and raises a glass of something and says goodbye, and then off to the cemetery or whatever. But personally, when my mum passed away, I couldn't bring myself to see her. I wanted to remember her alive. I wanted that to be my lasting memory, and not to be have this image of her laying in a box as she was, and the rest of my siblings went to see her, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
Yeah,
I think I probably think differently of it now. It was about 20 years ago, but I really couldn't bring myself to do it. Interesting. So it's nothing to be scared of. Now I know. At the time, it was I just felt differently about it. Weird though.
I haven't seen any of my family members' corpses. However, I have seen many corpses in India when I sat by the burning ghat, watching them carry the bodies down and burning the bodies. But from what I could see, it's a big difference between a living body and a dead body. And I think the reason why we look at the corpse is to see that actually this is, even though the person lived in there, this is not actually that person. That whatever that was that I loved or that I appreciated,
it's gone. Yeah, into the ether. Yeah, definitely. I believe the same. It's kind of just a shell, right? We're just a shell.
And then as the brain boils, they smash the skull before it makes a big pop. And then that's the job of the oldest son in the cremation ground.
Yeah.
As it burns, big smash. And that's a big part of the letting go.
Yeah, I see.
That's showbiz, baby. Damn.
It's a show. And I used to sit in the wintertime there in Varanasi. I was quite poor, so I was staying in a place with no heat. The only place that was warm was in the Shiva temple above the hot burning corpses. And I used to sit up there and just watch body after body get burned, skull after skull get smashed. Yeah.
As a tortured young man, I always wanted to warm my hands on the flames of the burning corpses of my enemies, but I never got to do that so far.
No enemies, right?
Not now.
That's good.
My friend, baby.
That's good.
Consider yourselves lucky.
Yeah. No, it's great to start with death. I think it's good. And that's the thing about why yoga practice is great when done properly. Shavasana is letting go. Right. The idea is you're dying. Be prepared to die at any moment, because it can come at any moment. And every practice is the chance.
Yeah.
So just calling it relaxation is good. And it is relaxation.
Yes.
And hopefully death is relaxation, you know?
But it's known in certainly in Western culture, the long sleep.
The long sleep.
So, I would say that is probably the most relaxing point of your life.
Yeah. Then I believe all the yoga practitioner loves the Shavasana the best.
The best shirt I saw is I only came
my
here
favorite.
for Shavasana.
It's my favorite.
Well, yeah, it is mine too.
Yeah.
I love to make sure the Shavasana is like very well earned, so I destroy every bit of energy I have and all of my resistance.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
So when it comes, it's welcome.
Yeah,
it's really good.
But not to take away from the tragedy that we started with. I don't think we have any idea of the upheaval of such an event, having not experienced it ourselves in person, but the rallying of the rest of the world is always good to hear, that no matter what the culture, no matter what the race, religion, whatever, it seems to be, at least it's seen in the media, if you choose to believe it, that we're all quick to
Help them.
run and help. Yeah. So I mean, that's something that we should be commended on, because at the end of the day, human beings, right? No color, no religion, no race, no.
Take care of each other.
Yeah, exactly that. So.
I mean, this country, Japan, they have more disasters than any other country.
Oh yeah. Well, they're the big one, the big one, right? 10 years, 11 years ago.
12 years ago. It was 2023. That was 2011.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Centered in this province, Kumamoto.
That one much.
Oh, we're talking about the Fukushima.
I was talking about Fukushima.
You're talking Fukushima. Oh, disasters, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess that was more of a man. Well, it wasn't a man-made one. What is it? Tsunami that came in and then extinguished a nuclear power plant and.
And there was a quite huge earthquake before.
Yeah. That kind of 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Kind of triple trouble.
Yeah.
Beastie Boys now.
It was 300 kilometers away from the power plant, and also the original location of the quakes.
The epicenter.
Then, but in Saitama, all the buildings were shaking like a. I don't know how you call it in English, but konjaku. Like a really slimy jelly.
Like Jello.
I know what they are.
Yeah.
Like Jello.
Yeah. They were shaking in a way they were not supposed to.
Yeah.
All of the buildings.
But they still stood.
Mostly.
Yeah.
Mostly. Yes.
Mostly.
Yeah.
That's a credit to Japanese engineering, because they dig deep. They dig very deep.
Yeah. Yeah. Used to it.
They have to, yeah.
Still haven't found insulation yet, but they know how to make they do know how to make something to withstand a hell of a lot of shaking. So good
point.
Good work, gents.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, some of those, like even my house is 80 years old. How many earthquakes has it gone through?
All of them.
All of them.
In the last 80 years, it's gone through all of them, right? So.
I mean, they say that for example, it's the style, the Japanese style, the traditional style, the post and beam. This is based on the Chinese, actually, because the Chinese have the roof-based thing. They say the Forbidden City can withstand, or the main building can withstand a 10-point earthquake.
Wow.
Yeah, they've done a scale model with it, and it shakes off all the walls, but basically,
I think they're designed. That's exactly how they're designed. That the walls are almost kind of independent of the structure, so they're designed to just fall away and leave the. It's clever engineering.
Yeah. So it's a credit to it, but no matter what, eventually things get knocked down. Sooner or later. Yeah. Even the pyramids are no longer what they used to be.
What did they used to be?
Well, the
pyramids, right? They're still.
You mean the Great Pyramid at Giza? We're talking the Great Pyramid at Giza. Apparently, it used to be all completely flat on the outside, perfectly angled.
Yeah.
And apparently it had a corpse capstone on the very top.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's traces of it. They found just some theories about all of this. So over the years, it's slowly gotten its step-like shape, and it's been robbed and pillaged and.
You're welcome.
Right?
You're welcome.
English Empire, maybe.
Well, I mean,
Napoleon went down there too. Don't
forget. They all had a crack at it, but we like to collect things. The British Museum is, there's nothing British in there. There's nothing British in there at all.
Spoils of war.
Exactly. So you're not going to be needing this.
Well, if you find it and it's like sitting there and you have the capability to take it and no one's putting up a fight.
It's been hanging around for years and no one's taking it. It's like finders keepers kind of thing, right? Yeah.
But the interesting thing when you think about that, apparently the ancient Egyptians, they just walked in and they found all that stuff there.
Yeah.
And then, this because they say, for example, from the time of Cleopatra to us, that distance is much smaller than the distance from when Cleopatra to apparently when the pyramids were made. So we're closer to Cleopatra than Cleopatra was closer to the pyramids being constructed.
Interesting.
Yeah, so all of the magnificent inventions, feats of engineering, and all of the amazing things we know about, they were made in the oldest kingdom. And as the kingdom advanced in time, all of their engineering skills went down, all of their art skills went down, all of their amazing things went down. So society kind of degenerated, which can happen, I guess.
Yeah. Do you feel it in the construction industry?
Certainly. The quality of things from, most...
How many years?
Take in England as an example.
And how many years have you been doing?
How many? Well, no. I've been 35 years. I've been in
years.
construction in one role or another. But, you've only got to look at the buildings in England, the stuff from, I would say, medieval times. It's still probably straighter and more level than the stuff that is being built in the last year. But really, the quality and the craftsmanship and everything, it's so, the degeneration.
In Japan too?
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Oh, I would say, definitely. Looking at some of the modern things that they're putting up now. But, they still haven't found out about insulation yet. It's really, really strange.
Yeah, we like to endure.
It's never been cold before here or hot before here, has it? Like it is every year.
Yeah.
It's strange.
Yes. Yeah. Well, people were stronger.
I would say that's true as well. Yeah. Well, they knew no different. Like the people that walked 1,000 miles. That's because they didn't know how to make a saddle for a horse, or
So by the time we get here, we'll become very soft.
Oh, big time.
Our capacity for the hardships of the environment and stresses of time, much less. Our convenience level is maximum so far, I guess.
Getting up there. Yeah.
Getting up there.
It's getting up there.
Yeah. And so I think that's why a lot of people become very uneasy, stressed, and depressed in the modern age. Because their capacity, because they're kept in a little bubble, they never get to feel the body's true potential. They don't get to stretch out. They don't really get to exercise properly, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so because of that lack of challenge, they feel extra energy.
Yeah.
And that extra energy ends up going into the brain and causing lots of thoughts.
It's the worst thing.
Yeah.
The worst thing. Don't think about anything. That's my motto.
Think about anything, yeah. Well, 99% is not going to help you.
I believe the stress has its role in nature, but we really like to push it away. And does any Veda or script talk about the healthy relationship between us and stress, or how do we want to face them or embrace them or welcome them? Or
well, they're talking about that. I mean, I always, very easiest, you just go to Bhagavad Gita usually, and Krishna always says, if you really want to understand yoga, you want to understand devotion, you have to be able to endure the little bit of hot and a little bit of cold and a little bit of the little problems you have. Those little things that stress you out, you have to be able to endure those things, because those things are just the superficial material reality. And if you really want to understand what's behind that, you can't let those things disturb you. So maybe if you're kept away from it the whole time, are you ever actually able to access what's behind that? I don't know. I don't know for sure. That's up to each person individually.
Even in its simplest terms, like you said, it's stress and, nature. When the wind whips across a land, some trees will stay standing, some trees will be bent, some trees will be snapped and uprooted. I think that's the same with human beings and the stresses that we get, no matter what the sort of outside force is. Some of us deal with it, some of us don't, some of us let it affect us, some of us don't, and I think working through stress, depending on what it is, of course. I mean, I guess it's a bit too general of a term.
Yeah.
So general.
Yeah. So maybe I'm oversimplifying it.
We do.
Yeah, you can always. Mostly, it can be worked through. Most of it is stuff that we shouldn't even concern ourselves with, I guess. But again, we are human and we do these things. We take on these things. Otherwise, we are no better than the tree.
Yeah.
That just endures it or just gives into it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, my mother always relates. She was a nurse for 20 years.
Right.
Over 20 years. And she always relates to me how whenever someone's terminal in the hospital, even if they're brain dead they'll keep him plugged into a machine and they'll keep him going. They want to make sure everybody survives every possibility. You know, you think about 200, 300 years ago, the stories are that if the baby came out, infant death, you kill it, it dies, you just leave it there. Or like a lot of the times if the baby came out and it was, you know, had some problem, the father usually had to go and take it and dispose of it because, you know, keeping that baby around was a detriment. You know, so they had 20 babies and 15 of them die. You know?
Well, infant mortality is, was all the rage.
It was all the rage.
That's why you had to fire out so many children, because chances are most of them would be dead by the time they reached school age. And usually those ones that died weren't in the position to go to any kind of school anyway. Yeah. But no, you're right. It was a birth defect or something was taken as a massive affront. And it was like, hey, let's take little one for a walk in the forest.
Yeah.
Good luck. If you can make it home, you'll get a bowl of gruel. If you can't, then...
That must have been so hard.
For everybody. We're fathers, right? So no way I could. I mean, there's times I probably wanted to, but I can't imagine.
So nowadays, if there's trouble, they try to save every possible case. Save every possible person. And there's something to be said for that. It's a great feat of compassion and kind of loving, caring for the ones who are, you know, not as fortunate to have the positions, the strong and healthy. It also puts a great stress on society, economically, as well as everything. I mean, who knows what the right answer is? I guess compassion is the right answer. It's like hard to say.
Well, I think we've evolved enough as a race of human beings that we should be compassionate and just do everything that we can, whether it's naturally or now with the advancement of medical science and stuff. I think it's right that we do that, but.
There's a slippery slope.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's a whole separate kind of subject. Isn't it?
Like, because then we get into, for example, the modern gene therapies.
Oh, yeah.
And genetic engineering.
Yeah. Test tube babies.
And then so, like, if you could make your baby... I'm sure the Chinese are already doing it. If you could make your baby super strong, super intelligent, and resistant to disease, very, your men super strong and big, and your women super beautiful, and everybody's enlightened, or as enlightened as you can materially.
Well, I'm sure probably somewhere it is going on, because we've been doing it to the food and the stuff that we grow for so long now. That,
someone's doing it somewhere.
You can't recognize what you're eating most of the time. So it's. I'm sure it is. Yeah, there's a point. There's a limit to it.
So how far do we take
where it is? I don't know, but I think at when we're talking about human life, then we should probably do our utmost to preserve it if there's a hope of and a chance of preserving it.
Like, for example, in a lot, I know in China, when they had the one-child policy, they would have they would detect early Down syndrome, early problems, and they would just mass abort those babies.
Yeah,
big time. They would even, because the culture favors men over women, they would abort the females. And now, modern China, there's way too many men and not enough women. And normally, nature usually makes more women than men. It's about 51% to 49%, or 52 to 48, or something like this. But in China, the numbers are skewed in a way that probably nature has never done before.
Okay.
So
with that huge overpopulation of men in China, if they're of a certain age, the way that America and China are swinging their appendages at each other right now, then probably that bring those numbers down a little bit with the amount of men that are around. If China keeps sending weather balloons over the US, which apparently they did, I don't follow too much of the news, but apparently there was a big hoo-ha about it, and America is celebrating shooting down a balloon or something. So.
Also, why didn't they shoot it down earlier? I heard.
Wow,
Well.
Yeah,
my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is kind of a topic of conversation that goes on forever. Is like the limit of technology. How far do we let it push us? Should we make ourselves into super humans plugged into an omnipresent AI that feeds us all information and teaches us everything at once? Should we try to retain some matter of our original heritage? What's the balance there? I mean, I have young kids. So this is something that they might encounter in their life because the technology seems to be pushing pretty fast.
Yeah. Why do we need weather balloons? Look out the window. You can see what's happening with the weather. You need a weather balloon for? Just so it comes on our iPhone or other phones may be available. But, it's going to rain tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right. And? Let's go and see what's happening in America. Let's go and see what the weather's going to be like over there. I'm sure they needed to know that in China. It's almost,
well, in this way, we become high consumers of information.
Information that we really don't need, right?
No, of course not.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make us happy or satisfied.
No. It's true. But there's a very old English saying that says, ignorance is bliss, which is pretty much the less you know, the happier you're going to be. And I think that's the test of time, and we've forgotten about that.
Yeah, we have similar one. We say, if you don't know about it, you can be Buddha.
Yeah, right, exactly the same. You know.
Maybe this is why kids can play all the time.
The innocence of youth, right? Yeah, exactly. They're not troubled by such useless mediocrity or whatever. They're just concentrating in the moment. Right now, they don't care what the weather's going to be like in Wyoming, especially if they're in,
or the war,
or whatever. Yeah.
And whenever I ask the girls what they're doing, their answer is always the same.
Playing.
Yes, playing.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm playing.
Exactly.
What are you playing? Oh, I'm playing this.
Well, we've forgotten how, haven't we, as adults? We've forgotten that.
Some people can keep it going.
Yeah, but it's really weird that I guess those people are always not by myself, but they're looked on as, they're outside of the bubble. There must be something wrong with them. You know what I mean, though? And they're probably the happiest adults on earth.
Yeah.
They are, man. Damn.
I guess we kind of associate responsibility with sternness, and so the people, the adults that we respect the most take the most responsibility in life. So it makes them more serious and more severe. And
Did you two used to want to be either adult or mature or grown-ups as early as possible, or you wanted to stay like a Peter Pan, I don't want to be young forever.
When I was a kid, I just wanted to be carried away by owls.
By owls?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I had this when I was really kind of small. I really liked birds. It's weird because I don't anymore. They kind of freak me out a bit. The fluttery wings and stuff. But that's another thing. But owls especially, I was fascinated by them. I don't know whether it's because they could turn their heads so. It was something about them. I can't remember now, but I remember, and that's what I really wanted. I wanted a whole gang of owls just to come and take me.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I never wanted to go. I didn't want to grow up at all, really. Yeah. I'd have to ask my wife. I don't think I've grown up very well.
Well, I guess the reason why I asked is these days, I think the value of the maturity and innocence kind of switched. Back in the days, we either respect or look up to adults and wish we want to grow and want to be great as them, to be responsible for family or society, environment, or whatever. But these days, there's some anti-age movement, or seems like the peak of the beauty, especially for women. Society talks that's in the either in 30s or even in 20s, and they try whatever they can to stay look younger.
Forever young. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But like, I don't feel it's right or feels nice.
No, I mean that's pretty interesting, really, because I think that growing up, like when I was really young, like I said, the whole owl thing, but then I think in my early teens, I couldn't wait until I was older because I thought this whole thing was gonna change, and you could see these people with apparent freedom and money, and they were doing stuff that they wanted to do, like peers and stuff. But of course, as soon as you hit what's I guess regarded as adulthood and responsibility, it's horrible. It's a horrible change. And then you realize when you're 10, 11 years old, halcyon days, baby. That you got no responsibility, no rent to pay, no mortgage, food's put on the table, you eat it, you don't eat it, nothing really. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden that just gets flipped on its head when you get, especially when you have to go into the whole kind of paying tax and seeing as contributing to society, which I don't think I've been in a society yet that I really want to contribute to, because it's just horrible. I mean, I agree. What are they giving to? You know what I mean? Though, what have they really given to me personally? It's given me an idea of how I don't want to live most of the time. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But we're encouraged to give up our individuality and conform, and it's never really suited me too much. You know what I mean? I don't know about you, gents, but it's
from my side. I remember. So I was definitely a victim of North American conditioning when I was a growing young man. I remember thinking to myself, I don't want to be a man, because that man is so rough and fierce and really not good. At this point, 42, I think that man is required. I think that avoiding that is a mistake.
Yeah.
Of course, you don't want to be violent. You don't want to be, too rough, but you need to be strong and have the capacity to take on a lot of hardship if you really want to be satisfied anyway. Because if you don't, the way I'm taking it now, especially as a father and doing all the things, if I don't take as much on as possible, I'm not going to be able to be very appreciated or appreciating myself. And then in that way, it's all about service.
Yeah.
Service is the paramount objective. But when I was young, I was definitely, Shoko, my wife, always called me like Peter Pan a little bit. I was definitely very free, and I didn't rush into anything so much. I just kind of enjoyed every moment as much as I could. And I traveled a lot, and I definitely had my fair share of enjoyment and play, and it was always in the context of yoga, but I was also playing music and flying around and doing those things. However, I realize at this point, if I had the same understanding I do now, I would have definitely picked myself up a lot quicker and done a lot more stronger earlier. Because the realization I have now, I feel like when you talk about contributing to society, I don't think we're contributing to society. We're trying to contribute to... It depends on how you look at life, because I don't think we're contributing to this temporary life. We're contributing to our eternal life. There's a part of us which is eternal, which goes beyond the body, which is beyond the death, the corpse pose. Okay? So that contribution, you have to take it in the context of infinity.
Yeah.
If you take it in terms of just your life, then beauty is peaking at 20 and going downhill from then on. That's a nightmare. That's a nightmare situation. But if you take it in the terms of eternality, not just this physical body, because after 25 the body stops growing and you start to degenerate. That's what they say. That's what the scientists say. However, knowledge grows, wisdom grows, and our intelligence should grow if we keep our mind flexible, and our relationships should grow also. So actually, if everybody stops idolizing the youthful feeling and what they remember being a kid, then if they really take it in the context of infinity, then actually being older is great.
Yeah.
don't cover up your gray hair. Don't try to hide your wrinkles. Don't try to run away from the death. Face it as like the transition point from this temporary situation to an eternal situation.
Yeah.
If you do it correctly. If you feel very bad and you feel fear and you feel terror, this means you're not fully inhabiting your life.
Mm-hmm.
You're not living it fully.
Mm.
You're holding something back. You're avoiding something.
Mm-hmm.
So don't avoid.
I would agree. I would agree definitely with that sentiment. It's life's too short to not do. It's not about fulfilling potential, but it's not about fulfilling all the pleasure that you're seeking. But it's actually, for me, my look is, as long as you're not hurting anyone else. But really, we're made for more than just generating kind of revenue for a government or whatever, you know what I mean? Like turning up at a factory for 45, 50 hours a week and then going home, sleeping for 8 hours, eating a meal, getting up, doing it again. Just, come on. No. It's, we're not put on this earth to do that. We are the only species that pays to live on earth. How did that happen? How did we get to that point? I mean, come on. Rabbits, owls, they don't pay. They're here. They're enjoying flying around, hopping around, eating it. We started out that way. Human beings, right?
Yeah.
So how have we ended up now becoming this species that essentially are born, put into a factory of rules, school, or whatever you want to call it, educated in such a way that we have to behave in such a way, and then put into the workplace, do 40 years, live another 10 if you're lucky, get into the old Shanthitown, baby. Oh, come on. There's more to life. It took me a long time to realise that. There's more to life than that. Enjoy yourself. Get out there. Do it. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. That really irks me that we are the only, we've brought it on ourselves. Clearly, thousands of years before we were sitting here today. But someone said, hey, I know, great idea. Let's invent this thing called money. And then let's make 3% of the world have it. And the other 97% want it. Never have enough of it. Generate more of it for us. Come on. Crazy. Whoever invented that was, I wish we knew who it was. He's got a lot to answer for. What's your take on it?
Well, I think no matter what, everybody pays some price. Even animals, though, they have to struggle. I look at the pigeons; they have to struggle to get food in the city, and the ants have to do their job, but they have to work hard to get their things to survive. Right? They're paying in some way.
Well, I mean,
maybe.
Well, I don't see it quite that way, but I'm interested in it in the theory.
Because money is supposed to be anyway some kind of symbol of our efforts. It's clearly not.
No.
Because but it's interesting too because you look at the farmer, who's actually maybe the most important person in society because they're the one that feeds everybody, right?
Yeah.
And they're probably not compensated properly in terms of monetization, but they did studies and stuff, and they're apparently the happiest people. So they may not make the money, but maybe they're the most satisfied with their efforts in the world.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to the individual, but my take on it is they were farming is probably one of the oldest traditions, or whatever you want to call it. What's the word?
Occupations?
Occupation, thank you. It's eternal. It's been around forever, but I'm pretty sure that it started off in a way that was simple. It was like, oh, maybe I'll need some potatoes to feed my family for the next year.
Yeah.
oh, maybe I've made a few more than we need. Tell you what, you grow corn, give me some of that.
I'm milking my cow. I can give you some butter.
Exactly that. You know,
he's got some salt.
Where did it become? Where did we lose the way that now there's investment companies and hedge funds and stuff that's just nothing. They don't generate anything but more wealth for wealthy people.
Yeah.
That's a big leap.
Yeah.
Away from what, you know.
Yeah. It's quite interesting, but here in Japan, I don't know if it's really true, but we say when we started the farming, like planting rice, our favorite plant, that's the beginning of the gap of the wealth. Because some people has rich, fertile soil or better sun exposure or whatever. So some people can grow way more. Some people not so much. Then back in the days, the rice was the tax for the government. So then
I can see exactly the link between everything falling down, and it seems to be maybe government. I mean, to me, it seems that
organization.
Organization is one. I don't think there's anything. You know, I kind of like to be organized when we're doing stuff. So I'm not against organization.
Yeah.
But this skewed idea that certainly speaking from my country, that you know, one particular group of people that are so out of touch with the farmer, with the fisherman, with the guy, make the decisions that guy has to live by. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. I don't think it ever will. And the more I kind of keep in touch with what's going on in the UK, the more it's clear and apparent to me that they are the last people that should be running that particular, you know, country. And
well, generally they're the ones that go to war and they do all the things, right?
They're generally the ones who make the decisions to go.
So
very rarely pulling out a gun on the front line or whatever. But yeah.
Back in the day, the king was in the front with the sword, eh?
Yeah.
Those are the old days.
I mean, I probably would have a lot more respect for the. Well, I wouldn't, because I don't believe in royal families and that. Anyway, that landed gentry is. Yeah.
So then what you're asking for is some kind of AI overlord to organize us in a way that's not going to be greedy or troublesome.
No. I think really organisation is more of a cooperative thing, and it should be more regional and apparent too. What's the point in having, you know, again, I'm using the UK as an example. What's the point in someone in Westminster making decisions for the people in the north of Scotland?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Whereas it used to work quite well.
Every country's like this now.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they're trying to go for a one world government, which is like even so far removed.
Exactly. We really.
It reminds me of the Tower of Babylon a little bit. We're trying to get up there, and then also there's more division and more conflict amongst us. So we're forgetting how to communicate as we're getting higher and higher and higher and higher.
Yeah,
I believe there's a limit of the size of the community, like nation state. I forgot the name of the book. The author called nation state described it as an imagined community. So it's in our imagination, because, you know, as you said, clearly the person in this town can't really feel like what's needed in 300 kilometers away. So the organization is needed, but then the size and the dynamics, or the intimacy, maybe.
Yeah.
Should be the key.
Well, of course, it's the you know, with further we are getting away from any kind of equilibrium. It's so fractured. You know, again, I'm only talking about what I know about my own country. It's just division all the time.
Yeah,
just dividing all the time. blaming everything that's wrong with society or that particular society on like 1% of immigrants. They're the ones who are taking all the beds in the hospital. They're the ones who are, that's why there's no jobs and all that stuff. All the time, the corruption in Westminster is off the scale. And it's just back to that sort of whole thing that we were saying earlier about, maybe the guy who's living in the forest and doesn't, certainly the happiest. So possibly working hard, possibly not an easy life, but away from the stresses and these...
Maybe there should be a sense of content.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, wow. In terms of like organizing society, I always think about the Varnashram, always. This is always like, I think about this all the time, which is the kind of idealistic form, the Vedic system, the Sanatana Dharma system, where like the king, who's like a king, philosopher king, he should be enlightened. Already we're in trouble in that department, but should be enlightened. And then they should treat everybody like a child, like their own child, so that they want the best for them. And they don't want to manipulate them or take advantage of them. They want to serve them. They're a servant of the people. And then also they should be able to walk up and down the street amongst them. Nowadays, like they have to armored cars and stuff because they will be killed. And then also every person individually is doing their own job based on their own capability to the best they can, and then everybody's understanding that the idea of the eternal again, not just the temporary thing. I mean, that's a consciousness shift, though. To get to that point, for everybody to do like that, it's almost impossible at this point. We're too far away from it now. It has to be something else, and that's why I bring up the AI overload thing, because it looks like to me, what I can see in the future is that eventually they're going to start making some kind of artificial intelligence govern the resources and govern the allocation of wealth and govern all of these things. And then if those few people get to program the AI, then we're in big trouble. If it's someone who's more moderate,
it's not gonna be anyone who thinks our way. It will never be. But of course it won't, because there's nothing in it for them.
But if it's truly AI, maybe the AI will outsmart them. Or maybe it will destroy us.
Coming. Yes, it's going to be like a Terminator thing.
Yeah, well,
I hope so.
Skynet.
The robots kind of just turn on everyone.
Turn on everybody, or then it's like the Matrix again.
Yeah.
They recognize they need us, but instead they use us as batteries instead of and they put us in our own dream world, so that and most people are happy in that dream world. Yeah. Or maybe we're already in that situation.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But in one sense, that eternal part of us that's living in this life, it's kind of already like that. The Maya, the temporary changing nature of the universe, we're kind of like that already in these bodies, if not in some mechanical situation. If you believe in that, then maybe you can possibly believe and understand that there could be other incarnations in other lives. So either way, the temporary situation of this earth, maybe it doesn't matter so much. Maybe it totally matters. Maybe it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. It's just, let's hope that things are better.
Yeah.
for the generations to come. Hey, we're not struggling so much ourselves. We're not. We
I don't feel too much.
No. There's always, there's always someone in a worse situation, and we can always take if we take solace in that. But
so then also they say that we're now in a time of highest prosperity ever. Some people say it like this.
That's probably because some people are.
Yeah. Well, they say that. I mean, I don't know. It depends who's saying the information, but some people say there's less violence now. We live longer. I mean, you read the Bible that people live in 1,000 years, so we're way behind that. But but that's what they say. Yeah. Maybe they're saying that to keep us complacent with the system.
I mean, I don't know where their yardstick is, what they're measuring that from. There's less than when Genghis Khan was cruising across Europe, or less than the people who got killed in the First World War, or
Genghis Khan,
very difficult.
Genghis Khan planted the seed for the Renaissance. Thanks to his... apparently, this is what they say. The story in the Mongol Empire was that someone was able to walk from one side of the Mongol Empire to the other side on foot with a golden bowl on their head. And they would not be accosted, they would not be robbed, they would not be attacked.
Obviously never went through South London.
He never got that far.
Clearly.
He never got
he wouldn't have done. Damn.
He didn't get that far. He reached the Caspian Sea, I think.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Azerbaijan? Well, it depends which side, but yeah, okay.
He reached the Caspian Sea. He went all the way. Biggest empire ever.
Yeah. Well, it's, you got Russia on one side and then you got Azerbaijan.
From China all the way there?
Iran at the bottom, yeah.
He almost got Japan. Thanks to the typhoons.
Typhoon,
2 times.
Oh yeah, that's right. He tried to come across it.
That's
all
the
his ships.
origin of kamikaze.
That's the origin of kamikaze.
Divine wind.
Divine wind, exactly. There's been many incidents in Japanese history where the wind has defended the country. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And in the end, we named the suicide bomber kamikaze later on.
Yeah.
The divine wind.
Yeah.
Pearl Harbor, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, Seth, if Seth was here.
Yeah. Anarchist.
Well, not only anarchist, but his conspiracy thing, it looms over, I think, about him in this kind of a topic because, the internet conspiracy theory people say that the wars, World War I and World War II, was actually the consolidation of this global empire. And since then, there was only 4 banks, and then after Libya fell, there was 3, and then Iran and Korea are the only individual banks outside of the World Bank left. And that's why those countries are under siege by the global empire, basically. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's connected to the money you were talking about. And there's a lot of conspiracy theories in this world. Seth would for sure be able to speak more on it because I go through quickly and I just take the basic information and I get the perspective and then I move on. I don't get pulled into the rabbit hole.
No.
I just take a splash of water in the face.
Go outside, have a word with yourself.
And
come back in and be like,
I always come back to center. Some people, like our friend Takashi, for example, jumps in fully and dives in very, very deep. And further episodes of the Shanthitown podcast, we will definitely go into those areas a little bit here and there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But all of these things, they have that narrative attached also on that side of it. So that's why, Seth put on the title screen of this. He puts conspiracy as one of the topics that can be talked about. Because
it was very interesting, these perspectives that, people have. It goes against the narrative that we're, pushed into us, onto us. So,
And the narrative is pushed even harder now, and the level of censorship is increasing.
Well, but I think because there's more ways to communicate ulterior, theories and stuff. So they got a stamp on that quickly, just in case we find out the truth.
This is the real hope. If there's any benefit to this kind of a thing we're doing, and then people sharing information, if there's any benefit to it, it has to be that we keep on throwing all our ideas in, and eventually those bad and those ideas that aren't conducive, untruthful, will get shaken off. And that can only happen through continued discourse.
Absolutely.
100%.
So that's what we try to do. Usually around this time, I would like to bring. I try to refer to the Vishnu Sahasranam every podcast episode. Since we're on number 2, the second name is Vishnu itself, which means the one who pervades the universe. So we can talk about that. So that's kind of it relates to our topic. Because our topic is, we talked about death. Death is the one thing that all humans share. That's actually one thing. That's the only thing. Maybe a body. Maybe we all share a body, and we all share the end of that body. Some people don't even get out of the womb.
True.
Many people interrupted before they're properly gestated. All of us eventually have to face that death. So that's the all-pervasive truth of humanity. And you remember Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I am death. Waves and waves of people are flowing into my mouth. Generation after generation. So that's true, but the idea of Vishnu is that it's pervading every particle, every single aspect of reality. And so that's why earlier I mentioned the eternal context. Because if we have that eternal context, then I think that's the only way to be free from suffering. I really think so. Because if you identify with the temporary context, then it's nothing but suffering. It's nothing but hell. There is no escape. Death is a judgment, like a life sentence. And many people, that looms over them. And identification with personality and with the body leads to trauma and mental disorder and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Right? Get too attached to it, right?
You get so attached to it. You become the ultimate narcissist. You become more attached to your trauma and to your identity, and you become more attached to these temporary things than you do to actually your own well-being. Right? True. And I think, anyway, our well-being is attached to that eternal thing, and that thing which pervades everything. So that's a message that many people try to get out. I think we should try to push that message amongst everything, is that there is something that interconnects all of us together. Yeah. And something that we should be attached with. Yeah. And then we can be free from the government, the ones that govern our mentality. That's right. Yeah. We can be free from the fear of death. True. Yeah. And then we can find our own sense of bliss without being ignorant.
Absolutely.
It's the opposite, actually. It's actually knowledge leading to
knowledge is freedom.
Knowledge is freedom. Well, that's knowledge with the big K, the G, Gnosis, the gnosis. The gnosis, ne? And in Sanskrit we call it the vidya, or the gyan, which is the knowledge which ends all knowledge. So what we also call Vedanta, the end of the knowledge. Yeah. So if there is a pinnacle of knowledge, I guess that would be it. Unless you can think of a better idea. I'm always open to learn.
I don't think we'll ever know until it happens, right?
Yeah.
So by that time, maybe that's when we're off to the next one.
Yeah. Well, that would be Mahasamadhi.
Samadhi.
It is possible to be Jivamukti in this life to have it. Yeah. It is possible. And then the only way to do that is to actually live in a Shanthitown.
Ooh, tenuous link.
Tenuous link, yeah. Well, which means we have to make the community together and live it together, and then try to model ourselves on that context, and try to follow the examples of the masters, and try to make that in our own modern context. Find that compromise with the technology and the natural way.
Yeah. There's a balance to everything. It's there if we can use it.
Yeah. Well, clearly we're using it. We're surrounded by cameras and microphones.
My fancy babies.
Our little babies, together, working together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And luckily we have Cassie here behind the scenes, monitoring us, helping us out a little.
Yeah. Wonderful.
So, Sri Vishnu, pervading everything. Thank you, friends. Yeah. No, we'll do this again. Definitely. It's great to have the balance.
Absolutely.
And if we ever figure out our input situation, we can get more people in.
More people around the table, the more the merrier.
Different people.
More mustache, more beard.
More mustache, more beards. And also we can bring in some women.
I think we should.
Yeah,
I think we should. Some of the subjects that we're talking around needs a woman's perspective, definitely.
Yeah. The thing is this conversation is so big, and we can never cover it in 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour.
Yeah, it's been 59 minutes.
Nice. Perfect.
Beautiful.
Absolutely perfect. Yeah. So, thank you, Pablo. Thank you, Kentaro.
My pleasure.
Great. You guys are great. Thank you, anybody who actually stuck around this long. Amazing. Amazing. Love you very much. Till next time. Adios.